Well, let's see. You got to remember, I'm a 76-year-old Vietnam veteran, so I'm not the sharpest candle in the world anymore. But going back about, well, let's see, it all started in 2008 when they had the financial collapse. And then that's when GSE, Government Services Enterprise, took over Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And that's the same year the Bank of America claims they took over Countrywide Home Loans. And Countrywide Home Loans, many have said they weren't even a lender. They just pooled money from other people and used that money. And then it went to investors, pools of investors. So anyway, I had 5 loans initially with Countrywide Home Loans. They were all good loans, I thought. They were in Grand Junction, Colorado, about 60 miles from here, and really good people that worked there. And the loans were made at different times between 2002 and 2009. So then after, the financial collapse and everything in the rental market, there was nothing around here like in many places, it was almost a ghost town. And then the property values went tanked to almost 50%. So then I had trouble because I had to take care of my mom, who was in her 90s, and it cost a lot of money, $100,000 a year. So I was having trouble making payments on those 5 loans, and that's when Bank of America jumped in and harassed me, and it's been going on, still going on, and they've changed servicers, so they say. So there's always a shell game going on. They've had Shell Point Mortgage to start with, then they assigned it, so they say, to a terrible company named Soteris, which was really IBM. And now it went to Nation Star, which has a terrible reputation, and probably close to $1 trillion in lawsuits and all. And they changed their name to Mr. Cooper now, so that they were hoping to improve their reputation and all. But there's still a whole bunch of lawsuits against them now, and there's a ton, like I said, against Nation Star. And the funny thing is, the people who run Nation Star are old people from Bank of America and Bear Stearns, and also, you can't really trust that. So that's kind of the background. I mean, I've been fighting them. I've lost a couple in foreclosure, which were illegal foreclosures in my books, and I had all the proof, but you can't hire an attorney. And then the local judges are just terrible. My judges were part-time judges in one case, a lady judge that didn't even understand securitization, where they pooled all these mortgages together, the lenders, and then sold them to the stock market, and then they sold them again. This all started back when old Bill Clinton, basically repealed the Glass-Steagall Act, where they didn't allow this, commingling of funds and working with lenders and the stock market. So that's kind of where it's at today, that it's still going on. It's pretty common. They just, toned it down some. I'm still sure there's a lot of foreclosures on the books. And if people know nowadays, as these lawsuits keep gaining momentum all over the country, the judges are finally getting educated to understand this big, huge, giant Ponzi scam, biggest in American history, from what I can tell. Where we, the people, were totally screwed over when we went to make loans. We thought we were making a loan with somebody and we'd pay them back, and it turns out that we didn't. And then when they had, all this bailout money that was supposed to go to help the banks, to help us, the borrowers, but instead they used that money who knows where. But there weren't a whole lot of people that were bailed out. There were some, that's true. And there was a lot of us that, they used the scam through Bank of America. They had shell companies and others that supposedly were going to help you with a modification. But then it turns out there were companies like Urban Services Renewal, main company created here in Colorado, and supposedly they got a huge building with just all kinds of documents in there, but they just would serve as an attorney in fact for Bank of America, and say, well, we can't make this modification. Or they would keep giving you all these letters and telling you that you had to keep providing information. I think I've sent packets about 7 different times. I went to New York, I went to Florida, I went to Texas, I went to Colorado, and they finally modified it, but all they did was just extend them out 20 years, on the loan, keep the same high interest rate, add on all the fees and charges. So it really wasn't a modification like it was supposed to be, because as I understood it, was supposed to be dropped the percentage rate to 2%, and then you were given a trial period to make your payments, and then if you made those, then they would make it a permanent thing. So that didn't happen with me, so I finally just had to struggle through, and luckily I sold a property at a low price and kept going, and then another one. So it's just been almost a financial disaster for me all these years, and I've been involved because I read all the time, and I read places like Living Lies Web, where attorney Neil Garfield is a fantastic attorney that educates people. So I really highly recommend that people check Living Lies out and read his articles. And if you're involved in a foreclosure, I just made some notes here, and if it makes reference to the MERS, MERS, that they're being assigned, it's probably a phony loan for sure, because MERS is a Mortgage Electronic Services. Guess who that was created by? Bank of America and other lenders, to circumvent all these recordings and everything. So that's still going on. I see in our paper where they have notice of foreclosure and says, well, it's in the name of MERS. They were assigned from so-and-so lender and all. And so you can't trust anything that says that there's MERS involved in there. Or when you get to your actual deeds of trust, if you go and read those, that's the proof that's recorded for the note that you signed when you took out the loan. So if you go to this deed of trust, it has to be recorded initially. And then you can tell on there if they refer to MERS, and that tells you definitely to be on the lookout. And then if you do a chain of title, the best thing to do, though, is to get a forensic chain of title, where you get somebody that specializes in, and they have lawyers where they go through an actual chain of title, and then they link it to who really owns it today. And there's just all kinds of problems there, that people find it, because most of us are unsuspecting. We have no idea that all of this happened. So we get in trouble. We try to notify the lender, and if it's a phony loan, they want to force you into foreclosure, and then they can turn around and sell it like they did me on one loan. They didn't even bid the full price that I owed like they were supposed to under Colorado law. So they had a low bid of $130,000 on an almost $300,000 property. B of A put that bid in, and then another party comes in, buys it, then they fix it up, turn around, sell it. So they got a property that was way undervalued. So there's those kinds of things going on. But I think mostly now they're getting more deceitful and tricky than they've ever been before, because it's been exposed. And I have documents here, that go through all of the things that have happened, and the references they make to MERS and everything when they record a deed of trust. And they have a block down here where they say it was assigned, and it's a real scribbly thing. It's a block. You can tell it's a stamp, and it's, there's no person that it's assigned to. There's just all kinds of stuff that's still out there, and they're not going to give up until, I don't know what, until maybe the government finally just says that's enough, because there were, when I understand, trillions of dollars involved here, and we haven't even come close to recovering all that money. So who knows what's going to happen? But if people really don't believe me, they can go to the website, and they can look and find out about the Morrow case that was done in Montana, and it's Morrow versus Bank of America. They can go through and read about the National Mortgage Settlement Act, and they can also read about a person by the name of David. Let's see, I'm sorry. His name was, I'll go back and get that later. But anyway, the first thing to know right here is that Bank of America from 2008 to 2014 spent 91.2 million in legal fees and in all kinds of liabilities. So that's one thing that I would caution people about, to be sure. On the MERS, I've already said that if you have anything in your deed of trust that refers to MERS, in many states they've said MERS doesn't exist, it's not valid. So if that's not valid, then your deed of trust shouldn't be valid. And then David J. Stern was an attorney out in Florida. You can read about it on the internet. He got caught and he was wiped out. He's one of the biggest attorneys. He had a private island, a yacht, and everything. He had a big bunch of people working for him, and they would robo-sign and phony up all these documents for people like Bank of America and all. So he got caught in Florida and disbarred. So that's something that you can read about.